All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Coffee House Comics. I'm David. This is Rory. We hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. I know ours was interesting. A lot of good family time. Yours had a lot of ups and downs, from what you've said. So,
yeah. We had an interesting football game, yeah, but everything else is fine.
But long weekend, and we're back. And today, we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to really dive into the Defenders towards the end of the show. But first, you recently had a chance to finally watch Wonder Woman. And I know I said before that Gal Gadot, or Gadot, or however you say her name, I really don't know. I should look that up. But
why don't we just agree it's going to be Gal Gadot for now?
Okay.
And then we'll fix it if we need to.
All right.
Otherwise, we're going to spend the whole show saying Gal Gadot or Gal Gadot.
Yeah. Well,
so
I was a firm believer she was a really good fit for the role. That when you're watching Wonder Woman and when you're watching her in Batman vs Superman and Justice League, you're like, that's Wonder Woman. You believe it. You feel it. The actress pulls it off. But what was your take on the origin story with Wonder Woman and how that played out?
The origin story I thought was interesting. Great movie. Great job with the actress. I agree completely. I thought that she not only looked the part but acted the part, totally pulled it off. By the end of the movie, I bought into the fact that she is Wonder Woman, period, for the life of the role. I mean, I bought into that as fast as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in X-Men 1. It was just, it worked. You didn't even question it anymore, and you could just enjoy the movie. Some of the supporting cast was pretty good too. I actually liked Chris Pine, in this, which was good. But there were a couple of things about it that really bothered me. And I know you and I have had a lot of discussions about this, but this is the Justice League DC. This is their first run through with all of their movies. Just like Marvel had their first run through where they had the Captain America movie and the Thor movie and so on leading up to Avengers. We've had Wonder Woman, we've had Batman Superman, we've had Justice League, so this is their first run. Well, on your first run, I don't think that the audience should be sitting here saying, I've seen this before. And that just really bothers me. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, then hit mute, but or something so you can't, not mute, but turn off the sound so you can't hear it for a minute. But the storyline, not the origin story, the storyline is Captain America.
Yeah.
It's Captain America.
I can see that, yeah.
You're fighting Germans. The head German is a little out there. He supports the German, political unit, but he is got his own agenda. The Red Skull ends up killing all the other German leaders. So does this guy. He ends up killing all the other German leaders because they don't agree with him.
Yeah.
It comes all the way down to, and again, big spoiler alert, but, her love interest in this, Steve ends up doing exactly what Steve Rogers did. He's in a plane full of explosives. He can't land it anywhere, so he has to fly it up in the sky and say goodbye and, sacrifice himself. It was Captain America. The whole movie, and that got me. The second thing, and it's probably a little bit nitpicky, is that, she introduces this kind of signature move. In addition to blocking bullets with her bracelets and the lasso of truth, and which I thought were pulled off great, by the way, and not corny, but really, really well.
Yeah.
Special effects wise, and the way it was used and the way it was written. But she gets this sort of signature move where she does it once on the island, and it's somebody holds a shield, and she runs up to the shield and jumps off of it and flies through the air and makes this great, attack. And then it happens again because Steve has seen it on the beach. So he says, "Hey, guys, lift this up." And they bring up this big, huge, shield-type flat object. Diana! And so she runs at it, steps on it, vaults herself up. Well, any of you who have seen Spartacus...
Yeah.
Okay. Which, by the way, the guys who worked on Spartacus were also the guys who worked on Arrow and Flash.
So like, we already know how to do this, so let's do it again.
So you've got Arrow and Flash TV working on Spartacus. Okay, so DC is already involved in this whole thing. And then somehow that transfers over into the Wonder Woman movie as her big move. And I'm kind of going, you really can't think of anything else that's not in another movie? It's the first movie. If this is Wonder Woman 8, I mean, if she's better than Rocky, and brings out 8 installments, and we end up repeating a little bit, I'm cool. All right, great. We've seen that before, but it's the 8th movie.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
And okay.
Just kind of got me.
Yeah. Now, don't get us wrong. The movie is fantastic.
Wonderful movie, other than those things. Just bothered me.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable. And how's it going, Guard Dog? Thank you for joining the stream. But it's one of those things where I think we were talking about the other day how Marvel has created team movies, okay? Like, they have 2 Avengers. They were even making team movies out of the standalone movies with Civil War and a few of the others, Spider-Man, all that stuff. And they've got a formula that works. Obviously, we all enjoy the team-up movies. We all enjoy, the Avengers, all that stuff. And we kind of wished DC would have taken a page out of that book in forming the Justice League. Now, there's a difference, though, between taking a page out of a book and blatant, page for page, basically paraphrasing or cliff noting a movie. Like, as you said, they did with Wonder Woman and Captain America: The First Soldier. Was First Soldier anyway?
It's
not the first
Captain
Soldier.
America.
Captain America,
the original Captain.
Yeah.
Captain America's
So,
lone movie, his single movie, absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's, to me, it's good to follow a formula that works, that the fans want, that the fans enjoy. But back to your point that you brought in a little bit earlier about Marvel, when they're creating their movies, they're taking some liberties with the storyline and creating their own universe that goes off in a certain direction. And DC's doing the same thing, but DC feels like they're literally just throwing out, the decades worth of comic book stories and just going, let's do our own thing. And with that, it kind of throws me off because, and this is a little bit of a spoiler for Justice League, Steppenwolf mentioned he would like to join the New Gods. Now, we're not going to dive into the New Gods deep, but I want to use this as a point of what Warner Brothers is trying to do with this whole thing of joining these storylines, because there aren't many comic books where the New Gods actually fight the Justice League. Like, Darkseid a little bit, but all the New Gods coming together and fighting Justice League, it doesn't happen often, and so you got to wonder, how much liberty can a movie studio take before the fans go, yeah, that's not even close?
I think DC has an advantage here. And let me back up just for a second, because we're always, comparing Marvel with DC, and I think that's normal. I think everybody has to. I've had a bunch of DC fans recently who have, seen this through Facebook and everything else that we're putting out, and they've contacted me and they're like, look, I know you like Marvel, but and I like Marvel and DC both, but apparently I sound like I'm totally pro Marvel. I don't know. But they're like, hey, I know you like Marvel, but, they came out first, and it's not fair to compare them, DC to everything they're doing. It's just different. Well, okay, that's fine. But there's an advantage to both. When you come out first, you get to set the stage. And if you do a good job, then you become the standard.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the standard. Well, DC comes along, and on one hand they have a disadvantage because they have to meet or exceed this standard that's been set. But by the same token, they know what they have to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you're down by a field goal, you need 3 points. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
you don't
DC,
need a 92-yard Hail Mary when there's 3 minutes left.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you have to get. So DC gets to see where Marvel set the bar. And then they get to say, hey, we're going to exceed it, or we're going to go differently over to here, and we're going to branch out and do our own thing. So you have the advantage of seeing what's been done and then try to do it better. Since Justice League came out, part of my issue, and I know yours too, has been it just seems like they're lazy.
Yeah.
It was rushed, and in our last show, I said, I feel like I'm kind of being taken advantage of, because they really feel like they can just sort of throw it out there and we're just going to go, right? Well, here's another example with Wonder Woman and with the New Gods of what you can do with storyline, all right? Well, with Wonder Woman, you were already reinventing the character. We already knew that. So there isn't any, Spider-Man having to tell his origin story 75 times with 14 different actors.
Yeah.
No, we don't have to do that. Wonder Woman, they recreated the origin story. They recreated her story of how she becomes Diana Prince and how she comes into, the human world and gets off of, Mysthera and the whole bit. That was all well and good. They could have done anything they wanted. So again, to me, that feels like another really lazy DC not wanting to get out of bed and work too hard. We're going to steal the Captain America storyline. Boom. With the New Gods, they have a chance to reinvent everything.
True.
With Batman, Superman, and you pointed out a couple shows ago, they've already got Robin's torn up uniform in the drawer, and the Joker killed him, did something to him, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Even in the comics, it's fake.
Right.
So
something happened. So we know we're past that already. And you mentioned, hey, we're going past the old Batman Joker because we don't want to do Batman versus the Joker and Superman versus Lex Luthor. Oh, oops, we are doing that. But you get the point, right? So we're going to do new things. We're going to recreate Flash. We're going to recreate Aquaman. We're going to recreate Wonder Woman. And they're still going to be really cool. But they're not going to be the old... We're not going to be fighting Mxyzptlk on Saturday morning in the Justice League, Hall of Justice. So they can do whatever they want with this New God thing. But will they? And so I'm going to turn this back on you because you've read the New God stuff a lot more than I have. So I got to ask you and give me your honest opinion on this. Is this going to be, hey, you can do whatever you want with the New God stuff, but Darkseid's going to come out and be exactly like, Dormammu, or what's his...
Dormammu.
Or
Thanos.
Or Thanos. Yeah. Or someone else has already been done.
Dormammu was Doctor Strange.
Is he going to be Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse? You know
Just
what I mean?
Giant cloud.
I mean...
Sorry.
That's what I mean.
Oh, no, that was Galactus.
That was Galactus.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to be one of those?
Yeah.
Or are they really going to take this New God thing and say, we can do whatever we want to do. So you know what? Let's get writers in a room. Let's lock them down. Send some wings in there and a couple of beers, and let's let these folks sit down and really write something awesome.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Let's dive into that. Now, to kind of go back to a point you made earlier, though, real quick before we dive into the New Gods, I will actually give DC credit saying that until the MCU, the most recent version of Marvel movies, DC was beating Marvel as far as the good superhero movies. Now, a lot of them were Batman movies, okay? But
some of them were Batman movies.
Some of them were Batman. But, the Dark Knight trilogy was great. And that was the most recent in most people's memory of,
sure,
we ended on a fantastic note. And so... I understand your argument of the MCU set the bar here, and your buddies who are DC fans and all that stuff. That's all well and good, but DC already set a high bar themselves, and so that's why it's almost disappointing that some of these movies are just kind of lackluster. That's the biggest disappointment for me, is because it wasn't like we had bad DC movies in the past. It's just these most recent ones have not been up to their own standard, let alone now Marvel set another standard, So that was my biggest frustration with, we've had good DC movies.
Mm-hmm.
We've had good DC things on TV. I know those universes are separate, whole nother argument, but it's interesting. Now, the New Gods, this is going to be a bunch of speculation because I don't know where we're going to take this. So those of you listening, if I get something wrong, correct me, that's fine. My initial thought is, obviously, the short-term conflict is going to be Darkseid tries to expand his dominion over Earth. Now, why Earth is important compared to other places in the universe, I don't know. Maybe it's just another check on his checkbox, because Darkseid wants to take over the whole universe and bend everyone to his will through whatever means necessary, like he's done on Apocalypse, his home planet. Now, with the New Gods, though, there's two worlds. And what's unique about Apocalypse, it's called the Fourth World, okay, which does have significance because this is the new gods are not the most powerful beings in the universe. There's actually a being above them called the Source that created the new gods and the powers that they all have and stuff like that. That some of the new gods tap into their power the Source's power directly. Mm-hmm. And this is the Source's fourth version of trying to create gods of the universe.
Okay.
So the old gods, like Ares and Zeus and all that stuff, was the previous version of the gods, and Ragnarok happened, and a lot of them died and stuff like that. So,
and then Ragnarok happened.
Yeah. Small thing, but initially, I think short side Justice League are going to face off against Darkseid. I don't think they're going to defeat him. I think they're going to trick him into going back into a boom tube, back to his place, and basically make him rethink his strategy. Because I don't... Darkseid's too big of a character to just have Superman come and, hey, he killed him. He won the day. If they do that in one movie, I may not go see another DC movie ever again. Like, that totally... Because Darkseid's too big of a character. There's too many... You have Darkseid's... Darkseid has children. That's what's fascinating. And you have the other... Okay, let me slow down. New Gods world, you have, in the Fourth World, you have New Genesis, which is like the good gods planet. It's very nature, it's very beautiful, very cinematic. And then you have Apocalypse, which is where Darkseid reigns, and he's like got all the bad gods. And Steppenwolf is his uncle, which is weird that he's more powerful than his uncle, but whatever, that happens. And they've been in fighting for millions of years, right? Well, not millions, but thousands of years. And they actually had a little mini truce where, I forget his name, the main guy for New Genesis, the good gods, and Darkseid swapped sons. Okay, so, to basically broker the peace. So they each had a hostage, and they raised them, and that brings a whole new other storyline. But that whole universe, I almost want to see a flashback movie of the old gods versus the new gods. I think that would be... It would be like what Marvel did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Taking an obscure storyline out, running with it. It's going to be epic. You're going to have gods fighting each other, and gods dying, and the new gods taking over, and the aftermath of all that, and then lead that into the next Justice League. Or lead that into Justice League 3 or 7. I don't care, but I think that'd be a fascinating storyline to do, because then you have intergalactic portions. And the best part about the Fourth World, which might get some Flash fans excited, the Fourth World is outside of all dimensions. So when Flashpoint happens...
I knew you were going to bring this up. I knew you were going to hit Flashpoint. I could see Flashpoint coming down the road like a Mack truck. When you were talking about.
So when Flashpoint happens, though, the new gods can directly impact no matter what world it is. So if it's Earth 2, Earth 1, whatever. And in the comics, Darkseid actually invaded Earth 2, but it was the same army that he used to invade Earth 1. So he couldn't do it simultaneously unless he split his forces. But it's not a different Darkseid. They are only one version of Darkseid, and no matter the worlds. And so there's lots of implications that could happen storyline-wise. That I think if DC really does their homework and really puts some effort into the writing, they could have a deep and rich universe with the way that they're going, since they've already officially teased the new gods and all that stuff. I think there's a lot of possibility. My biggest concern is their track record so far. They really need the next 3 movies to knock it out of the park. Otherwise, they're gonna have to rethink this whole thing and maybe reboot, because it's Justice League really didn't sit well with me, and that's the sad part, is there's really good scenes in Justice League, really good parts when they're isolated, but when it's all put together, it's a shit show, honestly. So
I think that a lot of DC fans are willing to look past a lot of that, and we've talked about this because we were feeling the same way. I'm willing to look past a lot of little, what happened here, how come this, to a degree, but you're right, the movie was so disjointed that it just kind of left us all. The next couple movies have to get a broom and do a lot of cleanup you know, on what got left. And if they do, then Justice League will be looked back on as this really cool origin story movie that opened all these doors, and then all these movies came after it and cleaned it all up, and it's all in a nice, neat little package, and we love it again. They have the chance. Yeah. You know, I'm with you. I'm not real sure if they're going to do it. I hope that this whole thing with the New Gods that you're talking about, I'd love to see that movie.
Yeah.
If it was written well.
If it was.
You know, I just have a feeling it's going to turn out to be like a reworking of the Disney cartoon version of Hercules. You know, I mean, because it's been done and they can just copy it. I mean, I don't. I'm not sure there's an original thought rolling around in anybody's head over at DC anymore. I really don't know.
But we do want it to succeed. Now,
yes.
If this video ever touches a DC executive or anyone at Warner Brothers, make these movies good. There's millions of fans who want to watch a great DC universe and all the movies. But they got to be good. Otherwise, you're going to piss a lot of people off. And then we might rent it or download it illegally because we don't want to pay for it. So
we would never download anything illegally.
No, don't
Let's
do
just throw that out there.
Others may.
We would never endorse you doing that either.
So,
what do you know?
No. Don't do that. You're right. So, but anyway, let's move on. So,
New Gods, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
If you have any comments about the New Gods, let us know. And, you know, that's another reason why you and I are sending this out to a lot of people and a lot of folks on all the different things that we're putting it on, whether it be Twitch or YouTube or, you know, the website, Facebook now especially is getting a lot of traction. We're asking folks to share it and move it on because, you know, we want folks to comment. If you don't like one of these things, let us know. We're trying to get somebody's attention. You know, we want everybody to jump on here and say, hey, we don't like this. Please do better. Please work harder.
Yeah.
And, you know, I tell you what, if enough people scream up into the sky, the gods may hear it.
They may.
You never know.
They may. Speaking of a lot of screaming, I recently did finish Punisher. So,
that's the segue of the day.
So right. there's a lot of Frank Castle in that show going. Anyway, so. But
all right, let me ask you this then, because you've seen Punisher, so let's switch roles for a minute. Because my big concern with the Punisher, and admittedly I have not finished the series yet. It kills me that I haven't, but I've had some other things to do, you know, so far.
They were important things, though.
They were very important things, and I'll get caught up before the next show. That's my promise to the viewer. I'll get caught up. But my biggest concern with the Punisher, okay, was number one, that he stay true to who the Punisher is that we know now. That he was created, okay, through Daredevil, all right, Daredevil 2, you know, the whole bit, and that he, not only did he stay true to who he was, but that the series of The Punisher on Netflix open doors and connect properly to the Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders universe, okay? And we talked about that a little bit earlier. Now, did the first thing happen? Does he stay true to himself? And then the second thing is, does the show open the doors that we need opened?
Yes, and yes. Okay, now I did enjoy Punisher a lot, but I also to not spoil too much, but kind of break down. No, I don't ever swap hats. These are our hats we wear. The Legend of Boggle, but but thank you for tuning in.
Swap hats?
I don't know. I have 12 other hats I could wear if you really want me to. But back to the Punisher.
Maybe we need to do one of those. If you pledge $5, then we'll swap hats or something. I mean, you know, we could do something like that maybe.
Yeah,
we'll discuss that in the after show. Thanks, man.
We'll DM you, on January 3rd. Anyway, but so Punisher, to kind of break down how they set it up, okay? And for those of you who haven't seen it, this is going to spoil a little bit, but it's not going to spoil the main storyline. It wraps up where he is finishing killing the stragglers of all the gangs that basically killed his family, right? So he's down in Mexico in one episode, killing someone in a hotel. He's in a bathroom, airport bathroom. And when the guy, sits down to take a dump and he strangles him, and it's a lot of wrapping all that up.
And this is from the original origin story of him through Netflix.
Yes.
With
So-
where they put his family
and-
in the park with the carousel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this explains why he's not involved in the Defenders, why he's not even in town, because he was literally on a crusade, wrapping up and killing up all the leads that he has for the people that took out his family. And he thinks he finished it other than one guy. Agent Orange. Now, I won't spoil who Agent Orange is, and the series dives into who Agent Orange is, who he believes set the hit on his family in the first place. But as far as he's concerned, he has killed everyone that he can find. And this is what I actually really enjoyed about the series, and I touched base it on a few shows ago about how I wondered if they were going to dive into veterans coming home and PTSD and all that stuff.
Right.
And if there's any candidate of someone who's going to have really messed up PTSD, it's Frank Castle. You know, it's because not only was in this version of Punisher, because I know in the comics he was a Vietnam vet, but in this version he's an Afghan vet. You know, did special forces, we know, and all that stuff, and you know, did a lot of things that he wasn't proud of. You know, and he made the decision not to re-enlist, to stay home with his family, and people were worried that the information he knew he would leak, and so they went after him, and he survived the hit when his family didn't. And it dives into that demon that he carries around on his back and the struggles, because it jumps forward 6 months in time where he is under a alternate identity, you know, fake paperwork and all that stuff, and trying to come to grips with, he thinks he's finished his job, and he's trying to get back into society, but anytime he closes his eyes, he sees his family being murdered.
Right.
So it really dives into that, and it touch bases with some of his friends who we've met in the Daredevil series, you know, some of the other vet buddies, and we get introduced to a bunch of other VA vets in a veterans support group circle.
Okay.
You know, and they swap stories, and that leads into a cool side storyline that eventually ties back into Frank Castle about episode 6 or 7. So what's up, Chalkhead? How's
How you
it
doing,
going?
Chalkhead?
So it's very interesting. Now, the reason I liked that they took that is because, well, one, I grew up, a lot of my scout leaders were veterans, and there are a lot of my friends went off into the military and served, and there's a lot of things that we don't really talk about in the open. And so for a lot of the series, talking about the demons that a lot of veterans have when they come back to the States, and all the things that they were trained for and the skills that they acquired to be a professional soldier aren't applicable in the civilian life. And that's a tough transition. And it was interesting how they used Frank Castle to develop that, and that actually transitions into him really being a good person, and so he helps a coworker out of a situation because, you know, killing's involved. And that is how
It's good TV.
Micro finds Frank Castle. Okay? And we all know from the season 2 Daredevil, there's a DVD with the word Micro on it, and that's the only hint we got about that character. But that DVD had a scene of an execution of Kandahar in Afghanistan.
Nice.
So, and that's a whole big thing with the CIA and the NSA and Homeland Security, all this stuff. Basically, shit goes down really fast, really hard. It's very gory. It's very awesome, and there are epic fight scenes. And there are a lot of the battles and the viciousness that we know the Punisher is for, all while still having actually really good storyline. Like, there was not once during this entire series that I felt I didn't believe in any of the actors. Like, that's one thing that blows my mind about what Netflix has done with their little mini universe of the MCU, is I believe all the actors are who they say they are. They try to make them really grounded. And I liked that. I got sucked in, and like, I know I read some reviews that, oh, it's slow and it's very emotional, but I got sucked in. I loved that. I loved that they really got they went deep, and they did it right.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how it ought to be done.
Yeah, And yes,
So
do they open doors? They do. They touch base on things that happen in the Defenders. They touch base on things that are happening in the bigger MCU briefly, but it's all subtle little hints. Karen Page is in there. A few of the other minor characters that have spanned the Netflix series are in there a little bit, and they do touch base on those things. And at the very end, they open up the door for obviously season 2, but they open up the door for Frank Castle to do whatever he wants. And that gets me excited for the next Daredevil, for the next Jessica Jones, for the next Defenders, for all that, because Punisher will be involved.
Good.
Because
that's where he has to be placed, on that precipice to be able to go jump.
Yeah.
He's got to be able to do that.
Yep.
So that's awesome.
And he gets his van. Sorry.
Man, okay, so total spoilers. Just throw it all right out the window. If you were trying to watch Punisher, too bad, because now you know he gets his van.
But I did not spoil the main villain. I
That's
did not
good.
spoil a lot of the main plot lines. Watch Punisher is fantastic. I think the only Netflix Marvel series that I really haven't enjoyed was Iron Fist.
No.
So,
As I said, that kind of brings us into our conversation about the Defenders.
yeah. So the Defenders. Now,
Right.
you and I both are in agreement. Overall, we've enjoyed all the Netflix series to different varying degrees, other than Iron Fist. And the only real big problem is the actor who plays Danny Rand. He is a whiny little bitch. I don't see Defender of Kunlun in that little boy who whines more than anything else. And when he fights, he never wins, and he occasionally has a glowing fist. It's just... And it doesn't get better in the Defenders.
We got a Raw Dog 34 over here. Punisher in Defenders possibility. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I would say. I don't think as a member of the Defenders necessarily, but involved with them, 100%.
Yeah.
It has to be. He was created in this Defenders universe, so...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's already had the crossover in Daredevil Season 2, obviously. And in the Punisher series, they did mention characters like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. They mentioned the catastrophe in the Hell's Kitchen that they referenced to the Defenders. So, yes, Punisher will be involved in the next Defenders, whenever that is. I don't know offhand when it is. I want to say it's coming up probably in the next 2 to 3 years. I know they're doing Jessica Jones, they're doing Daredevil. Next,
it's like a year and a half to 2 years out.
Yeah.
They're doing another Daredevil. Jessica Jones gets a reboot, and then they're talking about going back to Luke Cage. And then what is?
Sorry, Road Dog. You got to explain yourself a little bit there. Iron Fist's speeches on how he will defeat his enemy are the highlights of the series. I'm hoping you're being sarcastic, because he says that every 30 seconds in that series.
Yeah, it gotta be. It gotta be. I know exactly what this person's talking about, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially in the Defenders series. He walks into the room where he's facing, Sigourney Weaver, who supposedly is this immortal bad guy, right?
Yeah.
And he actually starts talking about, and I'm going to defeat you. And you're like, so this scrawny, skinny little guy whose hand lights up is just being as corny as possible. It's pretty bad.
You know, I want the Iron Fist from that Chinese video, because he had both fists glowing. He was a badass, and he actually did some damage to those Chinese soldiers. So,
well, and that Iron Fist from that video is the comic book Iron Fist.
So who's Danny Rand then?
That's
See, I guess I don't
What
know.
I'm saying is that's the image. It looks exactly like the comic book Iron Fist, the video game Iron Fist, the Iron Fist that became popular as Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And then they came up with this other idiot with the perm, and everything. And
I thought we got rid of that with Justin Timberlake back when he had the ramen hair. But anyway, so
it's bad. We agree it's bad, but.
Yeah.
I grew up with the Defenders because I've been a Daredevil fan my whole life, and so I've followed the Defenders. I actually read the comics of all this stuff happening.
Nice.
And I know this is going to come as a surprise, but I wrote a few articles on this a few years ago.
It's fascinating.
Back when they were putting out, when they were coming up with the whole Netflix plan, and I wrote one article on each one of the Defenders origin story, according to the comics, because what I wanted to do was put out there, this is who they are. This is how it happened, and so on and so forth. And I talked about, who I thought, was going to be cast and how it was going to work, and gave opinions and predictions and the whole bit. But I did one on each one of them, and then I did a Defenders one, kind of all together. You know what I mean? And not to brag, but I was right on all of them. The only thing they hadn't released at the time was who the actor was going to be for Iron Fist. And reportedly, they went through like 30-some-odd guys where they really thought they had the guy. And then for some reason or another, it wasn't the guy. And they settled with this guy. And I wish I would have looked it up before the show because I wanted to ask you this, but isn't he the guy from Game of Thrones that's like the Flower Knight? The Knight of the Flowers or something?
I think so.
Who
Let's look.
Isn't that the actor? And I'll let you look it up, but I just, if it's not, he looks an awful lot like him, and he certainly acts like that character. You know what I mean? So I was just a little surprised when we started talking about that. But
yeah, so
Finn Jones is
a British actor. Yeah, the Knight of Flowers.
That's the guy.
And see, now that you point that out, I thought he did a good job for the role he needed to play in Game of Thrones.
So did I. But would you ever have looked at the Knight of Flowers in Game of Thrones and said, Iron Fist?
No.
It's just totally miscast. It's like the one they missed.
Yeah.
Luke Cage, absolutely fantastic. I mean, that guy, it was like they went out and said, we need to find Luke Cage. And somebody said, hi, I'm Luke Cage.
Yeah.
And it really was him. It looks like he stepped right off the pages of the comic,
Yeah.
He acts like him, looks like him, carries himself that way, pulls off the role. Jessica Jones, I couldn't stand the actress in Jessica Jones when I saw just Jessica Jones.
Okay.
But by the time I got to Defenders, she was Jessica Jones.
Yeah.
I bought it. Her character was much better. She did a great job in Defenders. A lot better than she did in her own single series. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to the next Jessica Jones because I think she really evolved into the character, not just on her own, but for all of us too. I think we all buy that a lot better now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking back to when I watched Jessica Jones because I'll be the first to admit I'm a little bit of a Whovian, and when they said David Tennant was in it, I basically had to watch it. So
he actually does a real. When I heard that, I had the exact opposite because I was like, "What?" As the Purple Man? Are you kidding?
You're right.
He did it. Yeah, Chalkhead, you look like Luke Cage, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, serious.
Well, he for those of you watching Chalkhead, he's a very versatile actor, playboy, philanthropist, whatever. Because last week he could definitely play Superman, wasn't it?
I thought it was Daredevil.
Was it Daredevil? Yeah.
Maybe it was Batman.
But he has a lot of range, is what we're trying to say. Chalkhead has a lot of range as an actor. So Luke Cage, he could definitely pull off. So.
And we've already talked about Daredevil, and Brian Cox being Daredevil, and so on, or Charlie Cox rather, being Daredevil, and the difference between him and Ben Affleck and how he pulls off a whole new kind of Daredevil. You know what I mean? So most of these characters, it was like you said, that nailed them really well. Yeah. I think Elektra's great. Also, Punisher's awesome. So I'm glad that they're bringing the Punisher back into the whole flow of everything, since we all know how Defenders ended.
Yes. And it's going to be interesting where they take that. Because obviously, okay, back to Jessica Jones. I enjoy Jessica Jones a lot. And more so because of David Tennant. Because I've never seen David Tennant as a villain. I thought he was fantastic as a villain.
I agree.
So, and then, when I first saw the actress for Jessica Jones, I was thinking, oh, that's that girl that died in Breaking Bad. But, if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, shame on you. But, it's... But I thought she did a good job, because the only thing I knew about Jessica Jones was a little bit of backstory where basically she was Jewel, she was a superhero, she can kind of fly, and then Kilgrave happened, and she did not want to be Jewel anymore, and she was not so happy anymore. And I thought how they played that, where they went back and forth the time a lot with the flashbacks. They did a really good job with that. And they introduced Luke Cage, kinda, in Jessica Jones, which was fun. because Marvel's done that a little bit with Netflix has done that a little bit in every single series where they either subtly hint about a character, like in Daredevil. One of the lawyers said she had a PI that was very good. Learned later that's Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones. Right.
So, it was very interesting. And yes, Road Dogg, you're correct. Daredevil was shown to be alive in the monastery, or not monastery.
Convent.
Convent. Yeah, at the
monastery's
end.
monk, convent nun.
Yeah, in my head it made sense, but
It's
I
all right.
knew it didn't.
We're there.
So,
yeah. Well, that's the question. What happens with Elektra, though, who was with Murdoch?
Well, I
talked about
believe,
this,
I believe Elektra saved him, because we all saw the makeout scene at the end. But I think she's in love with him, but I think not enough to stop him or kill him, but enough to save his life. And because I don't think Elektra knows 100% what she wants yet. All she knows is she's now the head of the Hand, which she's got to figure out what that means. But she knows if she pursues that route, which she really wants to pursue that route, she's got to fight Daredevil, but she doesn't want to fight Daredevil. And it's going to be a challenge, I think.
That's her conflict throughout. I mean, in Daredevil 2, okay, so the character stays consistent within the Netflix Marvel universe too.
That's true.
In that she loves Matt Murdock and would like nothing more than for him to come to her side, but she's never loved him enough to go to his side.
Yeah.
And give up what she believes and what she wants. And now the other thing is that at the end of the movie, at the end of the series of Defenders, I've watched it 3 times now. I've watched the end 3 times now, and
okay.
I'm looking for where they close the gate to Kunlun, and I can't find it. So we're assuming the gate to Kunlun, which is a spiritual pathway, okay, that was opened by the Iron Fist, that we're assuming that got closed because a building dropped on it. So, in my opinion, I think clearly what happened was that she grabbed him and they went through the portal to Kunlun, and then she comes back out, because once you're out of that situation, you're in Kunlun.
Yeah.
Back out to drop off Daredevil, with the sisters, in the convent, where he can heal, and then she goes on her merry way doing what she's going to do after she knows he's all right.
That's
and he's going to live. Because they never, it's a huge deal about opening Kunlun. I got the Iron Fist, I'm opening Kunlun, boom.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're in the dragon's bones, for crying out loud, and they're right there in the basement, and the next thing you know, and they don't close it. You need Iron Fist to close it.
That's true.
So underneath that building, you could even revisit the idea that underneath that building you do have an open pathway to Kunlun.
Yeah.
That can only be closed by the Iron Fist.
That is a very good point.
Road Dogg 34, that's what I think happened with Elektra. That's just, my own opinion as a guy who, read Daredevil my entire life. But even, I like the way that they did this too, because Elektra and Daredevil always had a thing through the comics. And Daredevil in the comics was even more stiff and rigid and, in terms of his principles, than the character in Netflix. You know what I mean? And Elektra was even more the other direction of this freewheeling assassin who, if I'm getting paid, I'm going to put a sign in the back of your head because I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
So, anyway, sorry I digress, but I was just answering the question over here. So,
but that's the question. Defenders, we agree, other than Danny Rand, was really good.
Yes.
And where they can take it is interesting, because I'm still of the impression that one thing that Marvel has never really done is when they plant a seed about something, they will use it at some point. It may not be now. It may be 7 seasons later.
Yeah, like the micro disc.
Right.
Missed that completely.
Yeah.
Great pickup. And now I'm thinking about it going, huh.
Yeah.
I remember that. Didn't even click.
And so I want to go
job.
back to Daredevil Season 1. And I think I mentioned this to you off the show. But I think it's called The Chased.
Yeah.
Because there was
a group of guys with stick.
There was a scene where the Stick was meeting with a dude that we didn't see his face, but he was a big dude, a lot of scars on his back.
Right.
He has not come back into this whole narrative yet.
Right.
is he going to be a villain for the Defenders later on, or is he going to be a pseudo ally? Where's he going to come to play? Because they made a point of having that flashback scene, and he is a person on camera. It's not like they just subtly mentioned it and we might forget about it, but like he was on camera.
You're right, because Marvel doesn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they put him in for a reason. They will come back to it. It'll just be in another series.
Yeah.
Somewhere else down the road, and he'll probably make. My guess is he'll make one more appearance somewhere else before we really know who he is. But if he's working with Stick and he's part of the Chased, then they want Murdoch. Murdoch is like the chosen, white knight of the Chased who doesn't want to fight for the Chased.
Yeah.
And now there's this perception that the Chased is all gone and they're all dead. We know they're not.
Yeah.
Okay, it was just a group of guys in a butcher shop that ended up having a bad day, but there are thousands and thousands and thousands more of the Chased. It wasn't just 5.
Yeah.
And Stick lies, as often as he has breakfast. So when he said, "I'm the last one," he's lying.
Yeah.
So, and then the final thing on that, just to touch on it too, is that Stick's not dead. Scott Glenn, there's no way that he's just gone and dead.
Yeah.
Too cool a character, connected to too many things. With the way they've developed the entire universe, including this mystery guy, Stick is the key. Can't be gone.
Yeah.
Just can't be gone. So, I don't know if he slowed his heartbeat, but if Nobu can come back from what happened to him in Daredevil 1 to be in later on, in Daredevil 2, resurrecting Elektra, in no way in the world Stick's gone.
Yeah.
Just
and that's one thing they did allude to, I think, that yes, the main 5 were immortal because of the rituals and all that stuff. But the way it sounded like between conversations with Madame Gao and Stick, occasionally when they met up, they had centuries worth of history, which meant Stick was kind of immortal, or at least very, very long lived, kind of like Madame Gao.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Stick isn't the top guy and he has that, someone else has it too.
Right.
So, and...
Well, it's very possible Elektra has it at this point.
That's true.
In this incarnation of the story.
Now, they did put a little bit of a notch on that because... Shoot, I forget the details, but they went into how they needed the gate to Kunlun open in order to stay immortal. Okay? In order to get whatever mystical energy. I know they had a name for it in the series, and it's escaping me right now. But that was a big point of opening the gate to Kunlun, is so that way they could continue being immortal. So,
and they got the gate open, but the only one that was left when they got the gate open was Elektra.
Yeah.
Because she had wiped them all out up to that point. They were all gone.
Yeah.
So she's the only leader of the hand left to make it into Kunlun. So, yeah, I think at this point, they're going to introduce her being... immortal in some fashion, type of thing.
Yeah.
Got to cut her head off or she doesn't die. That's the other thing about Stick. He didn't have his head cut off. Elektra killed him in front of everybody else, but she didn't take his head off.
That's true.
And if you remember, that's how Stick had to kill Nobu to make sure he was dead.
Yeah.
He was like, "You are not coming back again," and he takes his head off.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't take the head off of one of these people, then they're not actually dead. So, and she did it. So there again, Elektra and Stick are always working together behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Probably still working together behind the scenes. She stabbed him and killed him, type of deal. So,
yeah,
all conjecture, but hey, still. And as far as Chalkhead here, I'm glad you included Strangely, because I don't know. I mean, Luke Cage has this choice between Rosario Dawson and Jessica Jones, and I'm kind of like, why are you wasting your time with Jessica Jones right now?
He is currently with Rosario Dawson, though.
Well, yeah.
So,
I mean, in the comics, he ends up with Jessica Jones. They have a kid. They get married. They have a kid. It's a whole extra set of... I don't know if you knew that or not, but they did.
I didn't.
They end up together. And so part of it is the tease of we know they end up together, but what happens on the way?
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson's character is probably going to have some sort of nervous breakdown, question everything. I can't deal with the fact that you might die type of deal. And,
And she's the night nurse, which means she does have to come back around to Daredevil to a point, doesn't she?
Well, she started with Daredevil.
Yeah.
So she's going to eventually come back around to that, sure, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, once you've been with Luke Cage, I don't know if you can go back to Daredevil.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that works, but that's a different type of show. So
Reinforced titanium bed frames. But anyway, to go with Chalkhead's comment. But
right.
So, well, I think this opens up a lot of discussion, which we will get to in the future, because we're coming up on about an hour here, and we're trying to keep the shows around an hour. But do want to pose a question to anyone watching. Feel free, if you have any topics you want us to talk about, to post on our Twitter. You can find us at Seahouse Comics is our Twitter handle. Feel free to post anything, any comments you have on there, any suggestions about topics you want to talk about. I know there are a lot of TV shows coming out, so I'm going to have to use some vacation time to marathon a few of these. There is the... Shoot, what am I forgetting? The Runaways on Hulu is coming out. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming out.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
We got the New Mutants is coming out. I think that's on Fox or something like that. Something with New Mutants is coming out on Fox. So there's a lot of interesting series that are coming out that are some of the smaller storylines or niche storylines that expand the universe even more and open up more storylines and more crossovers. And I find it interesting and fascinating that because I guess more that we live in an age where these storylines are possible and that these are becoming mainstream, because for a long time being a nerd and reading comics and doing all these things, it wasn't mainstream. And now we had the internet, which brings me to a little bit of a PSA at the end. Okay, I do want to talk about net neutrality just for 1 minute, and the reason I want to bring it up is because, for those of you who don't know, net neutrality basically is why we have unlimited access to the internet, and where no matter what website you go to, your limiting factor is how much money you pay for your speed of the internet and nothing else. Whether you're streaming videos, whether you're going online for anything, whether you're working from home, from work, or anything, the only thing that limits your ability to go on the internet is your own modem and internet speed, and that's fantastic. And it's FTC is looking to vote out net neutrality, and for some of you, you may not know what that means. For those of us who use the internet on a daily basis, and for those of us who watch Netflix and Hulu and all these things, and Twitch and YouTube, if net neutrality is retracted, it gives the FTC and also mainly internet service providers the ability to throttle domains at their will. Now, they swear up and down that even though this gives them the power, they won't use it, right? But it's a serious thing, because if you enjoy Netflix and don't want to pay your internet service provider an extra $10 a month charge on top of your Netflix fee to stream Netflix and not have constant buffering, or any of the other sites you use, or if you want to do game on the internet, you got to pay a gaming speed charge or whatever like that. Like, net neutrality protects all of us in our daily lives. Even if you're not a nerd, if you use the internet in any way, shape, or form, net neutrality protects you and your ability to use the wonderful tool that we have, the internet. And the final point, so if you can reach out to your local congressman, all that stuff, and say, get them to not repeal net neutrality. It's kind of like water. We may pay a water bill and we use water, but all we want it to do is what we pay for is when we turn the tap on, the water come out. They don't care if we're making pasta. They don't care if we're filling water balloons. The water company doesn't care. But that's how the internet should be. We just want to be able to use the internet in any way, shape we see, form, and the only limiting factor is how fast of internet do we want, and we pay for it. But if they retract net neutrality, it could basically it'd be like the water example. Oh, you're filling water balloons? Well, that's going to cost you more. That's kind of the best way to kind of describe on what this policy, if it's retracted, the ramifications it could have. So it is serious. Please reach out and there's petitions, or go to the FTC's websites and comments page. It is a big deal, and we hope you all enjoy that. And yes, Road Dog, you are correct. If this happens, we really don't want you pirating movies again. I'm talking to you specifically. So, no.
Yeah. If I can throw one thing in
Go
about
ahead.
net neutrality, because I think you said it beautifully. I feel very strongly about it as well, and I'm nowhere near as eloquent as you are about being polite about what's going on with it. But folks, it's just another shot for the government to control everything you're looking at, and if this side of the government gets in control, then they're going to shut down this side of of the internet so that nobody can hear that opinion. And if this side of the government gets in control, they're going to shut down this side of the opinion. It's just like watching MSNBC or Fox. Nobody wants to hear everybody's opinion. Nobody wants to hear the truth. No one even knows what the truth is anymore, and they want to control the discussion because they think that we're all too stupid to actually figure it out for ourselves. The internet is the last bastion of freedom on the planet, and they're trying to take it away. And that's that. So it is a very big deal. I know that Firefox has a very big campaign going on, and it's not that I endorse them or anything. I happen to have seen that because, I use Firefox in a bunch of different applications throughout the day. You can just log on to Firefox, jump on there, and you can support net neutrality right now. It's a very big movement. It's very, very important.
So, well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Coffee House Comics. We will be back later this week. We're still finalizing the dates and a few other things. But we'll definitely be back next Sunday, and probably one day in between there as well. We'll tweet it out when we're going to be out. So follow us on Twitter at Comics. And other than that, you all have a great evening.